Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I am joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall and Michael Reed. The Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. To find out more, you can go to www.listenfrederick.com. But we are rejoined by the Draft Network's own Ryan Fowler, Commander Nation fellow fan. Ryan, how are you doing on this fantastic post-draft Monday?
I'm doing well. I wish I could be a little happier about the draft class as of right now on paper, but it's a beautiful day and I'm ready to talk ball. So happy to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ryan. I know that you're a very, very busy man, so you being able to take some time out for us means a lot. But the first question I'm going to ask you is not about Jahan Dotson. My first question is about the trade back scenario. Going into this draft, the Commanders only had 6 picks, and 2 of them were really high up and were good picks. But my question is, what did you think about that trade back scenario? Was that the right move in your opinion at 11?
For me, to be completely honest, I actually liked the trade back scenario actually more than the pick itself.
Okay.
They needed more selections. I think that was made clear when Martin Mayhew and Ron Rivera in their pre-draft press conference. I love the Jahan Dotson pick, to be completely honest with you. Everything we heard out of Ashburn 24 to 48 hours was they were going to go Chris Olave at 11. Chris did go 11. It just wasn't to Washington. It was to New Orleans. But trading back there was a perfect scenario. We'll get to that in a little bit as far as who they took with those selections. But for me there, that was a home run, adding those extra 2 picks, only 6 selections.
Right. Yeah. And give us a little bit of a breakdown, if you will, on Jahan Dotson, because he's somebody, everybody had the top 5 receivers. And of course, they had Treylon Burks generally at number 5. But I know that a lot of scouts, actually, a lot of people had Jahan Dotson at 5 as opposed to Treylon Burks. Give us a little breakdown of his game and what us Commanders fans can expect from him.
Yeah, Treylon and Jahan, it was just kind of like you said, it's kind of a 1-2 the whole entire process. But for me, like Treylon Burks is 2 biscuits away from being inside end. And for Jahan, he's all about separation. And I think that's the biggest thing. And Ron Rivera wants guys that can separate. And you look at Terry and you look at Diami and what he was able to do with Carolina, and then hopefully Curtis Samuel being healthy. The game is separation. And you looked at Jahan at Penn State, and that's what he was consistently able to do in the Big Ten. And where they were playing other Power 5 programs, he consistently separated, even though defenses were preparing for him 95% of the time. I absolutely love the pick. Jahan's going to be just a smooth route runner, ability to win at every single level of the defense. He's not just going to be a guy that's, running 9 routes, or he's going to be able to create on designated touches. I sent out a tweet, I believe yesterday, talking about him working in the backfield a little bit, doing some unique things. He's got the burst to move past the 3rd level. He's tough. He's a my ball attitude type of guy, a lot like Terry is. He's a hands catcher. That's my only thing with Terry McLaurin. He catches a little bit with his body, a little bit too much for me. Very little wrong things to say about Terry, but that's my one thing. Jahan catches with his hands, and I absolutely love that. He's physical. He's not the biggest guy in the world. He's not a Drake London. He's not a Treylon Burks, but he's someone that will compete his tail off. That's what Ron Rivera wants, and they have a heck of a group of 4 guys with McLaurin, Brown, Samuel, and Jahan Dotson. So I love the pick, and I think Jahan Dotson is going to be a heck of a ball player in DC.
Right. And also real fast, I mean, hey, the guy's used to bad quarterback play. Penn State was atrocious the last 2 seasons with their quarterback play, and he still produced. So
right.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a whole lot of speed on the offensive side of the ball, which is what a lot of people have been asking for over the past couple of years. And jumping into the 2nd round, it seems that a lot of the people think that the theme of the Washington's draft was they took some guys a little bit higher than they were projected or on people's big boards, and they take Mathis with the 47th pick. D tackle, obviously, was a need with possibly Payne being on the way out either this year or next year. So kind of break down his tape and what he's going to bring to this team, because I definitely think that he can be a guy that can maybe get into the rotation from day one.
Yeah, I do too. I just don't get it. Everyone I spoke to had a day 3 grade on Fedarian Mathis, and he could have grabbed him there early on day 3. And if you're going to go defensive line there, if they were in that war room and Martin Mayhew saying, look, we're going D-line here, then take Travis Jones. Right. Take Travis Jones. Got some live. I mean, Mathis was down at the Senior Bowl, but so was Travis Jones, and Travis was completely unblockable the whole entire week. I think it was a reach. I've been trying to stay positive with that pick. If Duron walks next year and they potentially get a day 2 pick, a 3rd round compensatory pick for him, that's fine. I think, like you said, he could come in right away and have some sack production. He showed that at Alabama. But he's not athletic as John Allen or Deron Payne. I think he might be a run stuffer. But for right now and the needs that they had with Taquan Brisker on the board being, that massive hole at Buffalo nickel, I've heard some rumblings potentially bringing Landon Collins back, but I don't see that ultimately happening. But taking a rotational 3-tech defensive tackle with your second, overall pick in this draft, it's not a fit for me. But I hope he proves me wrong.
Yeah, and the one thing about Fedarian Mathis I loved to read about was he wore 48 for his cousin who was killed returning punts actually in a football game from a neck injury. So that's why he wore 48 at Alabama. So obviously a lot of credit to Fedarian Mathis for staying true to his cousin that passed away. But the next pick we're staying in Alabama, Ryan, was Brian Robinson in the 3rd round, one of those picks that they traded back for. And it was obviously a big need to be able to get that draft pick. Now, what did you think with what they did with it?
It's another thing where I'm like, what's the fit right now? But if anything, it's an eye-opener for Antonio Gibson. And Rivera has preached competition. Iron sharpens iron. And ball security is job security. We all know that. Got to take care of the rock. I think even years prior, not comparing Antonio Gibson or Brian Robinson to Matt Jones, but we had a lot of expectations when Washington drafted Matt Jones a few years ago out of Florida, and he could not, keep the ball in his hands and keep it secure. Brian Robinson didn't carry on 270-plus carries last year. He's not going to put the ball on the ground. I think he will challenge for carries in camp. But like I said, it's an eye-opener for Antonio Gibson. It's big that J.D. McKissick is back. They brought in Jarrett Patterson last year and Jonathan Williams.
Keep going.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, I think he's a tough runner. He's downhill, but a lot of people kind of comparing him to the Peyton Barber role. He's not Peyton Barber. It's almost a disrespect to Brian Robinson. He's got a lot more juice than that. But he's a heck of a ball player. Again, someone may owe some things to some people down in Tuscaloosa with that pipeline from Alabama to Washington. But I think he's a heck of a player. He was my RB1 on my personal board. But it's an eye-opener for Antonio Gibson, and I love that Ron Rivera is adding competition at all spots.
Yeah, my bad, Ryan. That's my indicator to read that I have a piggyback question off of it.
Oh, you're good.
What did you think of his pass blocking grade? Because I feel like the pass blocking has a lot to go in with it. When they lost J.D. McKissick, who's the best pass blocking back on this team right now last season, I felt like maybe this coaching staff saw that and said, we need some younger depth that can come in those situations and still be able to pass block well. So how did he do in that area?
Pass blocking is an effort thing.
Okay.
And you look back when Clinton Portis was an all-effort thing, and Jarrett Patterson stuck his face in when he was at Buffalo. J.D. McKissick isn't the biggest guy in the world. He'll stick his face in the mud and get after you. And Brian Robinson at the Senior Bowl, when he's going after Channing Tindall coming down one-on-one, he's a big boy as well, and he can stick his face in. And I think that's a big thing in the NFL. It's an overlooked thing. Everybody wants these guys on 3rd down that can catch the ball in the backfield. But what are you going to do on early downs and stick your face in if someone like, you look across this division, linebackers coming through. If Dallas puts Micah Parsons and he's blitzing through the A gap, who's going to stick in there and put his face in and block him? And I think Brian Robinson will do that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's a very underrated part of his game. So the next pick I think was honestly probably my favorite pick. I love this guy coming out, and that's Percy Butler, obviously the safety. So one of the things that you heard about Percy Butler leading up to the draft is that he's a pure free safety. He's a center fielder. He can come up, he can play the run. But then I also see some people saying that actually they think he may be able to step forward and play the run, possibly fill that Buffalo nickel role. I don't know about that so much, but how do you see him fitting in with this team?
I think he's a core special teamer. I'm a little bit different from
gunner.
Yeah. As far as a guy that can be, have some substantial role on defense right away. Right. It's just, you don't grab Kyle Hamilton at 11. You don't grab Brisker at 47. This was a spot for me where you could have grabbed a JoJo Doman from Nebraska, who I've been extremely high on. Now he signed with Indianapolis as a UDFA. Yeah. But Percy Butler is a guy that can roam center field as good as anybody in this class. But I think he's a core special teamer for me right now. And I'm sure you guys potentially see my tweets. Troy Apke, I don't have a lot of good things to say about Troy Apke. When I hear special teams ace, I think of Troy Apke on this roster, and I know they re-signed him. But Percy Butler is a guy that will compete, and if you need some snaps at the back end with Cam Curl and Bobby McCain, Percy Butler will be able to do that. And as a 4th rounder, a guy that I'm the biggest component for drafting small school guys. I know Brian Mitchell, that's his guy from Louisiana Lafayette, but someone that is super athletic and will only develop in that young defense.
One of the inside jokes in this podcast, Ryan, is what we do is we say he's a nice guy. We don't have any. He's a nice guy.
That's when there's not much good to say about somebody who's like, yeah, he's a nice guy.
He's a nice guy.
Ran a 4.2 though, right?
Yeah. Right. Very nice guy.
Yeah.
You're right. And with the next pick, this is one of the picks that has been talked about a lot since what was it, Saturday or Sunday when they picked it. quarterback Sam Howell from North Carolina, obviously coming into the season, he was projected to be the number one quarterback taken or the number one pick overall, maybe. Obviously slides to the 5th round. Do you think that it was great value, and how is he going to fit into the long-term plan for Washington?
Yeah, this was one of my favorite picks in the entire draft. This needs to be someone that can come in the building and have somebody that was consistently breathing down Carson Wentz's neck. Every single throw has to be microscoped. And a guy like Sam Howell, it was easy to kind of microscope him last year coming into this year, and he had Diami and Daz Newsome and Michael Carter and Javonte Williams and a good offensive line. How is he going to do when those guys are gone? Mm-hmm. And this year he added a run game, more to his game. He's physical, he's tough. Some scouts I talked to said that he was a little bit lethargic as far as the, kind of the persona that he had. I don't see that at all. I think he's somebody that players will rally around. And I think it's just a great situation right now. You have Wentz and Heineke. Heineke's been here obviously a little while. He's proven he can start. He can prove he can, back up. But Wentz is learning a new offense, and now Sam Howell's learning a new offense. He's right down the street, relatively, in North Carolina. And I think down the road, whether he wants to work into some starter snaps this year, I wouldn't be shocked if he's in street clothes a lot this year with Heineke as the primary backup. But down the road, as a developmental piece, to grab him in the 5th round, he's not a 2nd-round quarterback. He's not a 3rd-round guy. He's in the 5th round. He's insurance for Wentz, and I think he has a lot of talent to build upon.
Absolutely, and I think he was like one of the higher ups in the Wonderlic score, if not the leader in that aspect. So very, very smart and intelligent kid. The next pick in the 5th round, I thought this was genius by the Commanders. Basically, they traded back at that 2nd, 4th rounder, and then traded one of their 7ths, I believe, to trade up. So they had 2 picks in that 5th round, which was very smart on their part. And they went and got Cole Turner, the tight end from Nevada. I absolutely love this kid. What does he bring to the offense?
Yeah, this is a little bit of a tricky spot for me too. I know they like John Bates a lot, but it makes me concerned about Logan Thomas's health. How healthy is he? Is he going to be ready for camp? Is he going to be ready for the season? Because we know how darn dynamic Logan Thomas can be. But Cole Turner, the biggest thing he's got to work on, he's another guy down at the Senior Bowl. He's got to work on separation. I think he's kind of that former basketball player, like when you talk about Jimmy Graham, these guys are able to box out defenders. Yep. The NFL, it's all about separation, and he's going to be a mismatch nightmare. He's another big dude. He's not athletic, even as a Ricky Seals-Jones, but he's a big kid. He's got sure hands. I think he's going to be able to progress. Right now, as a weapon, he's much more dynamic than what John Bates is, as from a blocking standpoint, which obviously we know it matters. He's just not even good as Jeremy Sprinkle as a further extension of the offensive line. But now you got 3 guys in the building that will, again, compete. You got Thomas, Bates, and now Cole Turner, and I think he will work into some substantial snaps and challenge Thomas for, a good role in that offense. And you look at Carson Wentz and his success in Philadelphia, had Zach Ertz, had Dallas Goedert running some 12, plug Cole Turner in opposite Logan Thomas, and, you're cooking with gas there.
Yeah, that was my best friend Logan Paulson always said that Cole Turner was one of his favorite prospects heading into this draft. So I got it. Hey, you got to like the guy. But I'm going to skip over real fast over Chris Paul. I'll let Hall, if you want to ask about him, because I have a bunch of questions. Not a bunch, but Christian Holmes. He's the one player who we drafted I didn't know too much about coming into the draft. What does he bring to this team? And do you see him playing corner? I know on the feed they were saying that there's a chance that he could play safety.
Yeah, he's versatile. He's a transfer in for Oklahoma State from Missouri. And that Oklahoma State defense was supremely underrated last year. They had 3 guys drafted. Malcolm Rodriguez to Detroit, Devin Harper went, and then now Christian Holmes, us in the 7th. The corner / safety, I mean, in the 7th round, he's not going to really come in and be a CB3 right away, CB4, challenge Benjamin St. Juste or anything like that, even Danny Johnson for snaps. But you look at in the back end of the roster with Corn Elder and now him and special teams value. Bigger kid, 6 foot, over 200 pounds. He's got some, ability to grow in that defense. But right now he's a special teams guy. He's probably your CB5. But again, with pass happy NFL, you can never have enough corners.
Yeah, definitely. And Washington just released their list of their undrafted free agents. Was there anybody on that list that kind of caught your eye and stood out to you?
Yeah, I got 2. And these are big time ball players for me. And I'll start first with wide receiver Jaquez Azard, wide receiver from Sam Houston State.
What he did was incredible last year.
Yeah, Sam Houston State put out some pop this year with Azard and Zion McCollum, who went in the 5th round at Tampa Bay. He was one of my most underrated corners in the entire class. But Azard, I don't know if you guys remember Brandon Banks, but think of Azard with just a little bit more, bolster to his body and to be able to kind of holster against the physicality of the NFL game. The DeAndre Carter's gone. And I don't see anybody right now that may fit that role. I talked about the prior 4 receivers that we got, but Azard is outstanding. He was a semifinalist for the Walter Payton Award. He can return. He was excellent as a wide receiver, 5'11", 200 pounds, quick, But as we know, special teams is huge, and they don't have a returner right now on this roster, a proven returner, kick return or punt return on this roster. I think he could challenge for that. And then Cole Kelly, quarterback from Southeastern Louisiana, transfer from Arkansas. People see these guys, oh, Southeastern Louisiana FCS guy. I hate when people look at helmet decals. Just look at the tape and then tell me what you think. And Cole Kelly is someone that us at TDN were extremely high on heading into this class, and someone that popped 6'7". He's going to stand out at minicamp. You're going to walk into the building and be like, who the hell is that guy? And it's going to be Cole Kelly. Watch this film a little bit more today in preparation for this, and someone that clean feet, can also move. He's not Josh Allen by any means, but someone that can deliver down the field. Had 60 total touchdowns last year. Absolutely ridiculous number. And the biggest thing I know for scouts is when they get these guys from these younger schools, you have to dominate at that level. And he dominated and then some. Has a lot of tools to work with. He's similar in Carson Wentz as far as that bigger body. He's not, like I said, Josh Allen, his mobility, but he can move. And then it's just, I really, really like that UDFA signing. He may fill that Steven Montez role as far as being on the practice squad, but someone that just has a lot of tools and checks a ton of boxes. I'm extremely excited for Cole Kelly. I don't think he's going to be challenging Carson Wentz or Sam Howell or Taylor for, being QB2 or potentially QB1 down the road. But if you want somebody with tools and you want somebody that you can work with, there's not a quarterback in this class potentially with as many tools, maybe other than Malik Willis, than Cole Kelly in this draft. I'm extremely excited to see him work. I'm extremely excited.
That's high praise.
Let's hope Ezra doesn't go bartend randomly down in Bethesda like Brandon Banks used to. Remember? Brandon Banks used to go bartend at like Caddies or Tommy Joe's or something.
The last prospect we did not ask you about, Ryan, was our guy Chris Paul. Obviously, he is very versatile. He has history playing right guard, right tackle, and left tackle. But he was
led
also
the Suns to a championship.
But he was nominated to promote cultural diversity and equity in 2021 to the committee by the NCAA. This is a smart kid. Tell us a little bit about him on the field.
Yeah, extremely high character individual. Tyler Smith, Cowboys took him on the first round, got all the attention at Tulsa. But when you turn on their film, it wasn't hard to not find Chris Paul. He has a heavy anchor, lower half. He's not as athletic as Wes Schweitzer, Andrew Norwell, even Trey Turner, a guy they brought in today who I expect to start at right guard for them, but someone that adds depth. And now Schweitzer being a depth guy and Sadiq Charles punching challenging as that swing guard spot. It's someone that you do need depth along the interior and someone that could start in worst case scenario. He's not the most athletic guy. He has a lot of room to do, sort of working vertical in the run game, but you want somebody that just anchors feet in the ground. There may not be someone when he gets his big feet in the ground. He's a big dude, strong lower half, almost similar to like Kenyon Green and how his build is. Okay. Heavy hands. He wins first. We know football is all about leverage. He wins with leverage a lot. And that was, very nice to see on tape as far as drafting a depth interior guy in the back end of the draft.
Right. Yeah. We have more questions. Are we still going?
Yeah.
Good.
The other question I had for you about Trey Turner. Washington signed Trey Turner today from the Steelers, a $3 million deal. So look, I think Eric Flowers is going to get paid $10 million. Brandon Sheriff last season got $18 million. So essentially, if you were to equate those, there's $28 million. And Washington signed Norwell and Trey Turner, and that's less. I mean, way more less than half of the combined of what it would have been with Eric Flowers and Brandon Sheriff. So what did you think about that signing with Trey Turner? Does this make Washington better?
I think it does. I think the major question this whole entire offseason was Brandon Sheriff's gone and Eric Flowers is gone. What are they doing?
Right.
And then they add Andrew Norwell, and now you get a complete steal in Trey Turner. The guy's still 28 years old. And I don't care that he played in Carolina, but, why aren't we talking about him playing a year in Los Angeles and then going to Pittsburgh? Why are we saying he's a former Steeler? I get the Carolina connections. That's fine. But got 5 Pro Bowls under his belt, and it adds more experience along that front 5 to – you look at Carson Wentz's success, and it always relates back always to the quarterback. And look at what his success was in Philadelphia and all those veterans along the front 5 there for the Eagles. And now they got a group up front that is experienced. And I am extremely excited also to see Sam Cosmi in his second year. But Trey Turner, 5 Pro Bowls under his belt, played 17 games last year for the Steelers, $3 million. If he doesn't work out, then you maybe plug in a Wes Schweitzer. Or you plug in a Chris Paul or a Sadiq Charles if you have to in worst case scenario. But I think it's highway robbery, and if he doesn't work out, fine, hit the streets. But if he does, then you got a complete steal.
Right. Yeah. And when you really look at this draft, I mean, we'll jump back to that. There was a bunch of teams that did very well. I mean, the Ravens, the Jets stand out. Who do you think won this draft? Not necessarily teams, but maybe players. Who do you think came out the ultimate winner of this draft?
I personally have not seen a draft class as good as the Baltimore Ravens this year.
Thank you.
Insane. Kyle Hamilton and
They
Linderbaum.
potentially 4 cornerstones with their first 4 picks in
Right.
Hamilton, Linderbaum, Ojabo, and Travis Jones.
Jesus.
And even you go back into day 3 and they took Charlie Kolar, who I'm extremely
Yeah.
low on. I think he may be, in the USFL in a couple of years. I hate to hate on Charlie, but that's just me. But then they took Isaiah Likely, who was one of my favorite tight ends in the class.
Yeah.
And then they added Tyler Beatty, running back from Missouri. Now they're loaded at the running back spot. But those first 4 guys, Linderbaum, Hamilton, a lot of people ask me what I thought about Hamilton and Linderbaum, but there's 2 guys in this class that I would bank on being all pros in this class. It's Hamilton and Tyler Linderbaum. And to get both those guys and then add David Ojabo, who may be the best pass rusher down the line in this class, only to add Travis Jones, who will learn from Michael Pierce and Calais Campbell, is absolutely ridiculous.
Right.
Baltimore Ravens, by far. Other people had great classes. I think the Eagles had a good class. Also trading for A.J. Brown. I thought Dallas had a good class. The Giants hit on their first 2 picks, but I'm not going to celebrate them too much for taking picks that should have been there anyway.
You're right.
The back end of their draft I didn't think it was good at all. But Baltimore Ravens, 1,000%, one of the, on paper, it's different when they start to crack pads, but on paper, one of the best draft classes, the best draft hauls I've seen in a long time.
Right. Did you see that guy real fast on Reddit who a month ago posted? He was like, I had a dream that the Ravens drafted Kyle Hamilton at 14 and then traded back up into the first round for Tyler Linderbaum. Check mark this post if it ends up happening. It was literally in March. So props to that
crazy.
Yeah.
Sounds like that's a Reddit, like a front office guy's Reddit burner or something like that. You already have the plan going in. Another team that had a crazy good draft, obviously on paper right now, is the New York Jets with 3 first-round picks. How would you grade their draft, and do you see them potentially being like one of those teams that kind of makes some noise down the road if Zach Wilson gets it together?
Yeah, I think Zach Wilson improved with the back end of last year. I know not many people are very high on him, but I know he showed improvements in Mike LaFleur's offense last year. But Sauce Gardner at 4, getting to know Sauce, just who he is, and then adding Jermaine Johnson, an edge guy that people thought could go potentially in the top 10.
Yeah.
There's great ads.
Rumors of him going at 4 to the
Right.
Jets.
Right. I know it was funny doing our Huddle Report mock draft and turning that in. And I know everybody takes hours to do that. I just kind of go in and take 10, 15 minutes, know what I know, and plug it in. And Sauce Gardner was initially my pick at 4 because I know they want to run zone, and he's excellent in zone. I'm not saying that he's bad in man, but I really like what the Jets did. I think they're building the right way. I think they're building from the inside out. And I love that addition of Sauce. He's going to be an absolute baller in New York. I am extremely excited to see him against Stephon Diggs and Tyreek Hill twice a year. He's going to take his lumps as a corner. There's nobody in this league that can run with Tyreek hit for hit. But I think the Jets did a great job.
Yeah, and then Ryan, to finish this up, I know we kind of extended this a little bit, but there's an ongoing theme here after I've written down a bunch of information on these guys. Jahan Dotson is a senior. Mathis is a redshirt senior. Brian Robinson is a redshirt senior. Butler is a senior. Sam Howell's the only junior that they took. And then Cole Turner is a senior. Chris Paul is a redshirt senior as well. And I didn't write down Holmes. Oh, Holmes is a senior as well. So that being said, obviously there's an indicator here that this team went towards the veteran guys coming out of college here, which would mean that that's going to transition into immediate playing style. Wouldn't you agree?
100%. Day 1 guys, high floor, not the highest ceiling. Even looking at Jahan, not the highest ceiling in the world, but extremely high floors and guys that can come in and compete. Because I think we would all expect Washington to compete in the NFC East this year. We've talked about this roster for a couple seasons now. They may be a quarterback away. And a couple of these guys may be that stepping stool as older players with that experience. Talk about Jahan, Fedarian, and Brian. Power 5 experience. Sam Howell, ACC. Now, the ACC isn't what it used to be. But all these guys have Power 5 experience, and they're older players, even though Sam was just a junior. But day 1 impact, high floor guys. And I'm really excited. I'm tired of talking about these guys on paper. I want to see them cracking pads, So I'm excited. And like you said, day 1 impact, high floor. So.
All right, I can't thank you enough for coming on here, Ryan, and being able to give us your wisdom into this draft class. To recap this draft, I didn't think there was anyone better to be able to bring on here than the Draft Network's own Ryan Fowler. I can't thank you enough, brother. Hopefully we'll get you on here soon during the offseason to kind of help us out going into training camp, if that's okay with you.
Of course. Always appreciate it, guys. You're the best.
Of course, brother. Thank you, Ryan. You're the man.
Thank you, man. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Yeah, me too, guys.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Mr. Ryan Fowler.
So good.
Yes,
so
sir.
good. Yeah, you're right. He was the perfect person to bring in here to break down every pick in the draft class, because who knows Washington's picks better than he does? You know?
No, seriously, and then he's already done like the scouting report on all of these guys, so he knows a lot about them, especially. But how crazy was it to hear about him talk about Cole Kelly like that as an undrafted free agent quarterback, coming in and saying that he has the physical tools as anybody of these quarterbacks? I was blown away by that comment.
Yeah. I mean, you look at him.
I didn't know he was 6'7". I was like,
yeah, he's a big old boy.
6'7" as a quarterback, dude. That is insane. And looking up Cole Turner, the tight end, is 6'6", by the way, from Nevada. Just to give you some look into what he brings for you. But our next guest here is our guy, Mr. Michael Puckett, who we had on recently, but he was there in Vegas for the draft on draft night for draft night number 1. So without further ado, Michael, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic, brother. I got to ask you about how that draft went. I know, obviously, you were there night 1, and this is the first time the draft was in Vegas. And I'll tell you, from the TV viewership, I thought it was a great experience. I thought it was much more lively, much more fun than New York. What was it like for you?
Well, Vegas always puts on a good show.
That's
true.
True.
They know how to live up the party, and
I mean,
they definitely were planning for this
too.
Yeah, I know he was upside down, spinning and
spinning. Yeah,
I
know.
But
he did it. Yeah.
They definitely planned for this. This was something they wanted and they planned for it. It was a great time. They had a lot of different events and different things you could do. The draft was awesome. I loved hearing the boos every time, the commissioner came out. So it was great. It was a great time. I really enjoyed it. It was my first time going to a draft.
Dude,
is it louder in person than it is on the TV when they boo Roger Goodell?
Oh, yes.
I feel like it's insane.
Oh, yes. Yeah. It is. Every single person is doing it.
Every single time he takes
my wife came with us and she was like, why are they all booing? And I was like, oh, it's it's a long history.
We don't have time, honey, for me to be able to explain this to you.
But you'll hear it 31 more times, I promise you.
Absolutely. But guys, before we get any further, we're going to finish this episode with Michael by going down our fan questions and kind of recapping this draft class for the Commanders, because this was one heck of a pull. The first question is from Tim Towner on Twitter, and Puckett, I'll go to you first. Favorite pick versus least favorite pick?
For team or in draft in general?
Commanders.
For Commanders, my favorite pick, honestly, my favorite pick is Brian Robinson. I'm a big fan of him, man. In the 3rd round, I know a lot of people, they're not okay with it. I guess where he was took, maybe they could have waited and got him. I'm not sure, but I'm just really happy we got him. I watch a lot of SEC football. I'm a Gators fan, and my best friend's a Bama fan. So I watched him every year, every snap he played. I was right there watching him. I promise you, he will be a factor this season coming up. I really do. And he does not fumble the ball.
Right.
That's something our number 1 does or did the most last season. So I feel like he fixes that. He's a very, very good runner. And I'm really happy with that. I think my least favorite, I don't really have like a least favorite. I guess.
What are you lukewarm on? Is it Mathis?
Honestly, our Mathis. I think Mathis would be the one that I would be like, I gotta see what he really does. And I don't think they're going to throw him into the fire, early on in the season. I think they're going to kind of groom him in, use him. They mix up the DL a lot. So you're going to see him out there, maybe not 50% of the time like they were with the other guys, but you're definitely going to see him out there. And we definitely need some reassurance in case Payne or anybody were to walk.
Yep. I wholeheartedly agree with you in that breath, because my whole thing is you always go into looking at your roster, always go into it expecting your number 1 to get injured at every position, being able to build your team in that aspect. But what about you, Reed? What was your favorite and least favorite pick?
So I know this is going to be unpopular, but my favorite, honestly, I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to go Fedarian Mathis just because I get it. I said that. I've been saying that for the last month, that I really think that they could go defensive tackle early, because you look at the way how much, like you said, how much they rotate their defensive tackles. Deron Payne now maybe leaving. Of course, we lost Matt Ioannidis and Tim Settle. It makes sense. And a lot of people, I know Jaquan Brisker was on the board. There's Nakobe Dean, and I was disappointed too when I saw the selection. But the more I think about it, it does make a lot of sense. And I do like Fedarian Mathis. But I won't say he's my favorite. Cole Turner was my favorite pick. I think
you can't just take everybody.
Well, I was just going to talk about those two. That's it.
Okay,
That's
fine.
literally what I was going to talk. But Cole Turner is probably my favorite. I just think the need for tight end was there. And I really like him as a prospect. I really think that he can be a very good receiving tight end here for a long time. It might take him a little bit to catch on, but I really like this group of tight ends that we have.
Yeah, I agree with you. Cole Turner, you stole my favorite.
That's why I did it. I was
I've
like, I
had
gotta
my
butt
eye
Kyle.
on Cole Turner for a long time, but honestly,
You had his picture hanging up behind you.
This entire draft is probably my favorite pick, to be perfectly honest with you. But Percy Butler, I got to be able to watch some film on him, a little bit on him before we started recording here, and my goodness, am I intrigued by this young guy. I mean, he comes up and plays the run very well. It comes up as the plug, like I used to like to call Cameron Curl, being able to come up and be that plugging in the running gaps, come up making sure these running backs stop short, but also shows the hips to play free safety, and has the on-ball skills to be able to knock the balls out of wide receivers' hands with hard hits. I really, really like this kid, Percy Butler. The only one I'll say I won't like is, I'm not going to, not because of who it is, Chris Paul, just because of where they drafted the guard in the 7th round. It forced them to kind of go to Trey Turner as a starter. I like Chris Paul a lot, and I think that he'll be able to contribute on this team down the road as a depth piece. Obviously, he's a character guy. He's done a lot of work off the field with community outreach and being in fundraisers and stuff like that. So he's a great kid. I would like to have seen guard taken earlier, just as an immediate starter, but that's the only reason why it's not like I don't like Chris Paul. I think he's an intriguing prospect. What about you, Hall?
My favorite pick is probably, no surprise, going to be Dotson. Only because, not because I was like, oh, we're going to draft Dotson, that's going to be our pick, because obviously I wanted Jamison Williams or Chris Olave, but I definitely think that they still got a solid receiver. He's going to be a nice compliment to Terry. I know people are like, oh, well, his size. Well, you can't say something about his size, and then Chris Olave is only like 2 inches taller than him. So that doesn't really make any sense. But I definitely, he plays bigger than his size is. He played in the Big Ten. A lot of hard-nosed, tough cornerbacks in that conference. And it didn't really affect his play because, again, like Reed said, they had pretty bad quarterback play at Penn State. He's still putting up crazy numbers in the Big Ten against guys that are getting drafted in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd round in this very draft, and probably next year's draft as well. So definitely like Dotson. And I'm not going to say I don't like the pick, but it kind of, not really a head scratcher, just kind of disappointing because Brisker was there, and then the Bears obviously took Brisker right after we took Mathis, which actually got me a lot more salty. Mm-hmm. But I definitely wanted Brisker there. I think that he would have been a great fit for this defense, can play the back end. Obviously, they knew what they were doing because they got Percy Butler in the later round. But, yeah, I wanted the safety of the 2nd round. But, again, I'm not hating on Mathis. I think he's going to come in, do a great job, and be a contributor. But, again, if it was me and I was a GM, I would have went Brisker at 47.
Yeah, and Percy, they even lined him up at linebacker at times, like that dime linebacker, where he's coming up and lining up on tight ends, running backs. He can do it all, so I really feel like that Buffalo nickel is something he could grow into. But I think automatically off break, I think you're right. Percy Butler is going to be the special teams ace. They let DeShazier Everett walk this offseason, so they kind of needed that captain on special teams. And I think Percy Butler is the shoe-in favorite to win that job. I know they re-signed Troy Apke, and maybe he will get that captain patch, but I think Percy Butler is the guy they're going to be taking. And then Reed, your guy Brian Robinson, he returned 11 kickoffs in his career at Alabama. So just to give you guys just a little bit extra edge to that pick, it would make a lot of sense since he can contribute on special teams as well. But the next question, Puckett, from Tim Towner. The roster shows both Cam Sims and Carson Wentz with number 11. What's up with that? And what number would you give Cam Sims, 12 or up in the 80s?
I'm an 80s guy, so I give him whatever number he wants in the 80s. You know, I'm kind of old school about that. I do kind of like some. I do kind of like some of the running backs with single digits, but I guess it'll grow on me a little bit. But I'm just too old school, so I like the 80s.
No, I'm right there.
Pick anyone you want. 83. I don't care what it is.
He used to wear 89, right? He used to wear 89.
89. Yeah, and I like that.
Put it back.
I like that.
Right.
It fit him. It fit him. You know, he's a big guy, big number.
Yeah, what do you think, Reed? What number would you like to see Cam Sims
I'm
wear?
right there. I'm old school. The whole number change thing still weirds me out. It's something like you said, Puckett, I'm going to get used to eventually. But it's not college, it's the NFL. Like I like my receivers to wear numbers in the teens or in the 80s, but I'm gonna go Cam Sims, bring back old 89. You know what I'm saying? Just bring it back. He used to wear it. It looked good on you for a little while, especially that preseason that he tore it up. So just bring it back.
I can understand why Cam Sims doesn't like 89 because the numbers make you look bigger, like a tight end almost. And you could tell why he wanted a smaller number. So it looks thinner. I get it 100%. I don't really care, dude. I don't care what number you have, Cam Sims. I don't care what number Carson Wentz wears. I just want to make sure you guys are linking up for touchdowns and helping this team win football games. That's all I care about. So wear 100, wear 0.5. I do not care, brother. Just put that jersey on and go win some football games for us. What do you think, Hall?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I think he'll go with a lower tier number though, not like in the 80s. Even though I wouldn't mind him putting on like an 83, 84 type of number, like kind of like reminisce like Moss is going up and mossing people. But I think he'll go with a lower number just because you got Terry 17, Curtis Samuels 10, Dotson's gonna wear 1, De'Ami Brown's 2. Seems like all the wide receivers got lower numbers, so he'll probably stay in like the single digits or the double digits, low double digits, something like that.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Now, the next thing that we're going to get into is a Discord chat server. I was looking back into our Twitter to see what Scott Hartley had sent us, but I can't find it right now, but I'll scroll through with it here. The next question we have is from a Discord chat server, and this is from Andy Lockhart, Scouse Andy. They were in UK last week. They had the draft party. They had a bunch of fun. Apparently, Scott Hartley is still drunk from them hanging out, which makes a lot of sense. So hopefully you guys had a great time. I know you did. I'm sorry that we weren't able to do the live stream with you guys out in the UK. I talked to the guys about it on the live stream. I was trying to get that coordinated, and it just did not work. But the question from Andy Lockhart is, what do you think is our best bet to cover up the huge hole at middle linebacker / Buffalo nickel, Puckett?
Honestly, is hoping that the guys that you drafted come through. You drafted, Jamin Davis for a reason. Cole Holcomb is there. I think that you can make it work somehow, some way. They don't have to play the middle linebacker every time. You can switch them around, move them around, especially, not just with the Buffalo nickel, but in general, depending on the scheme and what you think the offense is about to run. They just have to develop their players. I think they have a good little core going on now. People like Bostic and stuff is still out there streaming around if you want to bring the vet back. But I personally think you just got to develop these guys right.
Yeah, and I agree with you in that breath. I think the middle linebacker is like over talked about. I think the Buffalo nickel is more important because when you look at this defense, I think you need to be looking at it as a 2 linebacker defense and a 3 safety defense rather than looking at your standard typical 4-3. You got your 3 linebackers. It's a different setup team. The NFL is changing. And so I know a lot of people like to talk about Rivera and them stuck in the 80s, but if that was the case, they would have drafted Nakobe Dean. If that was to be perfectly honest. And look, you guys can talk about how good Philly is for taking him, but it made a lot of sense when we had Logan Paulson on here. The one thing he talked about was Jordan Davis freed up a lot of things for Nakobe Dean. So if you're the Eagles, how do you shore up and make sure that you can make Jordan Davis look good and Nakobe Dean? You pair them up together. So that was a good job by them, to be perfectly honest. Yeah. But I'm with you. I think Landon Collins is probably your best bet if you want some linebacker depth besides John Bostic. I know people have brought up Joe Schobert is a veteran that you could bring in here. And I just think that he's like your old school typical kind of linebacker. The only thing for me is his price tag because the cap space they have right now keeps diminishing. And I understand that they have Terry coming up here soon. I just hope they're able to free up a little bit more. I just don't think it's going to be enough to be able to get a guy like Joe Schobert. But hopefully Landon sees what's happening, what's going on here with this team, and wants to get involved and comes back for the price that they originally wanted. And he comes back. He can play middle linebacker in those empty sets. Yep. Cole Holcomb and Jamin Davis can stay there at linebacker, and they can move around and do things that they need to. What about you, Reed?
Yeah, I think obviously the ideal situation would be Landon Collins comes back, but
right.
Yeah, I agree. I think middle linebacker is kind of being a little bit overblown because, like you said, if you look at it, how often are they actually in 3 linebacker sets? Not that often. I mean, they did a lot of 3 safeties, but at the same time, up until this last year when we had Landon Collins, Jack Del Rio never really ran the Buffalo nickel. I mean, that was something that was new to him, that was kind of made specifically for Landon Collins. So I think if you can bring him back, get him, Jamin Davis, Cole Holcomb on the field at the same time again, I think that's ideal. But other than that, I think that they do want to use a lot of 2 linebackers. So I don't think middle linebacker is as important, but the guys you mentioned, I mean, Joe Schobert, of course, John Bostic, bringing him back. I could definitely see something like that going down.
Yeah, I agree with you. What about you, Hall?
Yeah, I mean, you guys pretty much hit on everything. Obviously, Landon Collins, like you guys said, would be the ideal situation. Could definitely see a reunion with John Bostic. Obviously, you already know I'm not the highest on Bostic, but he definitely brings that locker room and that veteran presence and kind of again, he can teach the guys, the younger guys, or yeah, I guess the younger guys. Cole's not really that young anymore, but a guy
Yeah,
like
he's not
Jamin
young
Davis could
anymore.
yeah, a guy like Jamin Davis could definitely benefit from a guy like
Joe Schobert.
Bostic being in the room,
Oh,
yeah,
Bostic.
or Schobert as well.
Yeah.
But I definitely do think they're going to get a veteran. Uh, like I said, the names out there, like Dante Hightower's still out there, but he's kind of on the back end of his career. He probably wants to play for a contender after coming from the Patriots all those years. And again, like you said, Schobert's got another good name out there. So definitely think they're going to get a vet. It's just, is a vet going to be like a veteran that's going to take that position, or is it going to be more of a vet guy to kind of be that locker room presence and kind of that veteran in the room to kind of show the younger guys what to do, how to play the game, and like what Ron Rivera wants.
I got you. And now our next question is from Jeff Miles. I want to give some context to this. Before the draft, Jeff had sent in a question to us, basically saying that, like, in the years past with Ron Rivera and this team, they look at a guy and you think his consensus is the pick there, but they go with somebody you didn't even expect, like Jamin Davis. And so he asked us, do we think that was possible? And so his next question is, was I right or was I right? Now, Dodson could be good. We never know. Could be a blessing in disguise. I think most people are angry because of expectations of what we could have gotten. What I'm tired of are the maybe picks. Maybe he'll be good. Maybe he'll work out. I want guaranteed picks. Kyle Hamilton was a guarantee at 11 to enhance our terrible pass defense. Williams and Olave were guarantees opposite Terry to enhance our offense. Everyone else is being aggressive, and we're being conservative. He says he needs to see some amazing picks in the rest of this draft. But you were right, Jeff. You're 100% right about everything that you said. The only thing that I would add to that is they knew that Dodson was not going to escape that first round. And that's why they went and got him at 16, because we even mocked it. How many times did we mock Dodson going to 22 to the either Kansas City Chiefs or the Green Bay Packers?
All the time.
Yeah, so there was no way he was getting out of that first round. And so they didn't want to lose out on that. And if you're looking at it in the same breath as saying, would you rather them go get Chris Olave without trading back, or go get a wide receiver that is comparable to Chris Olave in what he can do and also trade back? And that's why I like that pick a lot. I know a lot of people aren't high on it, but it is what it is. We can't make everybody happy. Now our next question is from our guy Tony Shivers. Which day 3 Pickpocket do you think will make the biggest impact this season?
I think Cole Turner. I think he will, because he, releasing Ricky Seal Jones, it was kind of like you could throw the ball to him and he has a good chance of getting it, end zone type of threat. We saw the beautiful catch he made in the end zone. So I feel like Cole Turner brings you that kind of presence where if we need to get a score in or maybe a first down, we know that he has sure hands. I was watching some film and some videos of him, and that guy's pretty athletic for how big he is.
Yes,
he was making the diving catches.
Yep.
Diving catch he made against Boise State for a touchdown was a beautiful thing. I really do think that he'll make an impact this year. I think the biggest impact as far as scoring and getting us into good field position.
Yeah, the one thing I will say about Cole Turner, it would have helped out a lot if they would have had Pete Hainer here to kind of help groom him. But I have all the trust and respect for Juan Castillo, and I think that he'll be able to do it. What about you, Reed? What was your favorite day 3 pick?
So yeah, I was gonna go Cole Turner originally too, just because we had Logan Thomas on. He does sound like he's ready to play, but you said, what kind of car do I drive? That was funny. No, we were talking about golf, Logan. That's
dude, I cannot tell you how funny that was on the ride home.
That was
man.
so funny. Yeah.
Poor Logan.
But I'm gonna go with Percy Butler. I think Percy Butler, if you look at it, he was somebody who I really liked before the draft. I had him going a little later in the draft, but just you look at his special teams acumen as a gunner, and he's got such rare speed. He runs in the 4.3s. He's physical, as you said. He really brings something different to this defensive backfield as long as he can get up to speed. I think that he'll have a good amount of opportunities. I think that when somebody's playing well, if you see what they can do, you can't keep them off the field. I think he's somebody that's kind of going to force their hand to put him on the field a lot. I'm going to go with Percy Butler.
For me, it's Sam Howell, and it's not even close. I love
Percy
Butler. I absolutely. Oh, was it immediate? Oh, the biggest immediate impact.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Which one of the day 3 pick? I thought it was which one
I
of the
was
day 3
like,
picks you like the
damn.
most. I'm sorry,
Hey, you
Tony.
never
my
know
mind's
with these
moving.
quarterback injuries.
I know. Hey, yeah.
My mind is
never
moving
know.
a mile a minute. But we'll make the biggest impact. I think you're right, Reed, about Percy Butler just being the special teams ace and what he can do from the safety position. We don't know what's going to go on with Landon Collins, so maybe there is a need for to move him in. He does get a lot of production this season. So I would agree with you with Percy Butler. What about you, Hall?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Turner as well. I definitely think that like Puckett said, he's gonna be a nice red zone target. I could definitely see him Scott Turner lining him up. It's like solo on the outside against like a smaller cornerback, just throwing the ball up in the end zone, like kind of like a jump ball thing, just using his size against them. Probably gonna be a good middle of the field target as well because he's a big guy, nice catch radius. Obviously Carson Wentz has been known to work with the kind of the bigger wide receivers and the bigger tight ends. He's a wide receiver converted to a tight end, so that bodes well for him. And yeah, I just think that you got a nice trifecta in the tight end room as far as Logan's your all around do everything guy. Then you got John Bates, who's a great blocker, but can grow in the passing game. And then you got Turner, who's going to be good in the passing game, but needs to grow as a blocker. So
he's like the complete opposite of John Bates.
Yeah, exactly. So great tight end room, great pick in Turner. I definitely think, like you say, he can come in and be a great red zone target. And like I said, him and Logan Thomas on the field at the same time, that's like two twin towers in the red zone. So
it seriously is. Now, the next question on our Discord chat server, and the last one, is from our guy Jeff Miles. And Hall, I'll keep it with you. Since the draft is over, where do we rank in our division?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'd probably
the one we all think about.
You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah,
You're frozen, but keep going.
Yeah,
I kind of like it
froze.
better.
I'd probably say we're I'd say it's probably Dallas still right now, just because they got the best quarterback in the division. I'd probably go with the acquisition of AJ Brown. I'd probably put them a smidge, and they had a pretty good draft as well, honestly. I'd probably put the Eagles a smidge above us, but obviously it's just on paper. You got to get on the field, see what happens. But I would rank us kind of that 2-3 range right now.
I got you. Yeah, I don't agree with you at all. I think Washington is number one in the division right now. I think the Cowboys are tied for fourth with the Eagles and the Giants. What about you, Puckett?
So, as bad as it sounds, man, I'm going to have to put Dallas as number one just because of the quarterback. It's the biggest. I mean, it's the passing league now. You have to have a quarterback. I would probably put us second. You know, I don't really trust Jalen Hurts just yet. He needs to become more of a passer for me to trust even the acquisition of them getting AJ Brown. You just never know. And then the Giants, well, we all know the Giants are last. So I'll probably put us. I would put us number two. You know, I think that we could be something like 9-8, 10-7 this year.
Well, especially with the schedule that we have being a lot easier than last season, you could say, comparing the two. Reed, finish us out right.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Unfortunately, I'm going to go with Dallas has to be number one. I mean, you look at them, not only do they have Dak, but their defense, what they did last year. But then again, how often do defenses maintain that when they're just good out of nowhere? So Dallas, I would put them number one, but I could see Dallas having a bit of a down year. I'm going to go number two, but I really do like what Philly did. I mean, they had an excellent draft. Of course, we talked about AJ Brown. Him and Devontae Smith are going to be a very good duo together. And with Dallas Goedert over there, but does it really matter? I mean, Jalen Hurts needs to take that next step. But the Giants, I will say, man, the Giants, the first two picks, they did knock it out of the park. I do think that they took Wan'Dale Robinson a little too early, but I could see him being good in that offense. So it's going to be interesting. But the Giants are on the rise over the next few seasons with the coaching and GM acquisitions that they've made. I mean, they seem to be in a lot better position than they were, but they're still last.
You know, we laugh about Wan'Dale Robinson, but then he's going to be the next Tyreek Hill. You know,
I know he's good. He's very good.
I mean, obviously he's very, very good. It's just everyone's very surprised by it, but Lord knows how these things work out. Now let's move to Twitter for our next question. This is from our guy, Commander OC, Orange Crush 92, and this is a fantastic question, Puckett. And I'm going to go to you first. I feel like you're really, really good with this type of question. He says, maybe I'm just crazy, but it seemed to me like the consensus board was a bit off this year. A lot of picks weren't ever on the big board, and a lot of picks above rank 262 were left on the big board. Does this normally happen? An example is the Ravens pick the cornerback Demarion Williams at pick 141.
So I'm just gonna say it like this. I think that this draft was get the guy you like.
Yeah.
It wasn't more.
Yeah,
it
it was
wasn't
different.
best player available or I mean that obviously plays a sum into it, but it was Ron went out there and got the guys that he liked. He made the moves that he had to move to ensure that none of it was flashy or shiny. So I won't put too much credit into where they were picked and what it took to get them and stuff like that. I just feel like he got the guys that he wanted, and it turned out well for him. Sometimes it's a risk, of course, but we could have got Dean and some other people like that, but he just one of the other people, and you just got to float with it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that, OC, because it's almost like the consensus people, the media, whatever, whoever's judging all of this and coming out with these boards really was looking at talent. Whereas, so I think where your point is going is where fit and what Puckett was basically saying, fit went a lot into these picks where guys were saying, yeah, you might be really talented, but how are you going to fit into here with us? And that kind of pushed things down the wire a little bit. I totally understand what you're saying by that. And it definitely didn't feel normal, especially given with the picks like what we talked about with Wandale Robinson going in the second round. Things were, and then Sam Howell going in the fifth. I mean, in years past, these quarterbacks would be flying off at second, third round, regardless of how good they are. I mean, we're not far removed from Jimmy Clausen being a second round pick, from Christian Ponder and others who had no business being quarterbacks. So it's almost like the NFL has kind of gelled and realized about the quarterback consensus and the need for it has really ruined the product, you could say, to a point. But I will say it was a very weird draft, given like somebody like Smoke Monday wasn't ever drafted. And there was like big names that you thought that would go in the fourth or fifth round that never did. And it just goes to show you that we don't know anything. What about you, Reed?
Yeah.
What do you think about the Commander OC's question?
I've definitely noticed it over the past year. That is something that happens a fair amount, but I will say you are like, it did seem like a lot of people were way off this year with a lot of their rankings. Like for example, Leo Chanel, you used to see him going the top of round 2, and then where
Yeah, I
did he
didn't
end
see
up
that
going
from his
104 or something?
I didn't
Right.
see that.
I mean, but it's such a big difference with a lot of these guys. Malik Willis was mocked as high as 2 to some people. He ended up going in the third round. Like it does happen every year where scouts and GMs aren't as high on players as the media is, but it did seem to happen a lot more this year. And I think you're right. I think it was just a different type of draft bucket where it's like it wasn't as strong as other drafts, like especially with the quarterbacks, but you had to get the right fit, the right type of person, the right kind of player. What kind of players does he fit in the locker room? And I think that's where a lot of teams kind of lead, and that kind of gave them the edge over some of these other guys. But yeah, I mean, seeing people like Smoke Monday on there, who I thought probably going around 5 or 6, but was pretty interesting. But yeah, there were some good players that were left off the board that didn't get drafted. So it was weird.
Yeah, it was very surprising with Malik Willis that he was a third quarterback taken, and the first one taken was Kenny Pickett. Tennessee kind of blew everyone for surprise, but that's a great situation for Malik Willis to go into. He's not forced into it right away. He can lean on Derrick Henry in that offense. It just sucks they took away his number one pass catcher in A.J. Brown, but obviously they got Treylon Burks
for a couple years too.
Right, and I know a lot of people talked about Treylon Burks not should have been the pick over Jahan Dotson. I'd be willing to bet, like, what if this coaching staff looked at him and said, Treylon Burks needs time to be acclimated to a pro, and just based off maybe just like the minute details that goes into route running and being a wide receiver in the NFL, maybe that comes easily to Jahan Dotson. That's why he's ready to play now, whereas Treylon Burks probably has that superstar potential, but he doesn't, he's kind of still raw, I guess you could say, and maybe that is a reason why they bumped him off, and that would make a lot of sense why Jahan Dotson was the best wide receiver next on the board. So I can't really.
They got Robert Woods too, right?
Yeah,
the Titans do.
Yep.
Okay.
They did. Now, what about you, Hall? What did you think about OC's question?
Yeah, to your point too, I definitely think that Treylon Burks is definitely not going to hit the ground running like everyone thought he would. Just for the simple fact of, like you just said, Robert Woods was there, and then you had A.J. Brown. That would have been all the coverage would have been rolled to those two guys.
Yep.
That would have kind of let him develop and kind of grow into his role. But now he's got to be kind of forced into that guy, kind of the A.J. Brown role, which let's see if he can do it. But as far as this question goes, I definitely think that, like everyone said, this is like a draft where this was like find the guy that fits your culture, fits your locker room, and you might have him rated higher, you might have him rated lower. If he's on the board when you like him, you take him right there at that spot. So, and I was listening to 106.7 earlier, and they had Logan Paulson on there, and he kind of said the same thing where a lot of people were like, oh, well, Mathis was a third or fourth round pick, or this guy should have went here. But if they have him on the board and he fits your culture and fits what you want to do right away, then you have the conviction to take that guy, go ahead and take him right then and there. So definitely agree with that. And I definitely think that obviously the COVID year kind of factored into a lot of things because a lot of guys went back to school. There was a lot of super seniors, a lot of like 5th-year guys, even like 6-year guys. So can't draft everybody. So like obviously people are going to get pushed down the board and out the draft. So that's why you see a lot of the undrafted free agents like are like kind of the bigger names like, oh, like you said, Reed, like, oh, I thought he was going to go in the 5th round, but somehow he went undrafted. So definitely going to see a lot of undrafted free agents kind of get burst onto the scene this year and probably make a name for themselves.
Yeah, I
Right.
thought
And
that,
also the undrafted free agent thing happens every year too. But you're right, there did seem to be more. But one more thing, the quarterbacks, like really, it's also, I mean, you can kind of tell if you look at the NFL, not that many teams really need a young quarterback right now.
Right.
Like so many teams
Right.
have a guy. So I mean, it makes sense kind of where they went. But yeah, it is still weird.
very weird. And then with Mathis, look, this dude is 6'4", 310 pounds. He's a long body, and he's a run defender, run stopper, but he still had 9 sacks last season. So it goes to show you that he can do 2 elements. And I'm going to upload Mathis's my film breakdown of him tomorrow once I get back from work. But I'm telling you right now, this cat is very, very good, especially with his hand usage. I can see why they used him in the 2nd round. Is it the Commanders' fault that the rest of the league can't grade talent very well? No, it's not their fault. So they take him where they take him. You know what I mean? So who cares, dude? Let the media talk about, well, this guy should have went there. Well, that's why you're reporting and you're not making the calls, to be perfectly honest with you.
Also, apparently Mathis is a guy that a lot of players kind of gravitate towards. He was a huge leader at Alabama, and I think that they wanted more of that in the locker room.
Yeah, that's the thing. Off the field interviews, they probably did. None of us were there in the house. You know,
Right.
I still think that's the most
felt.
important part,
Yep.
Puckett, to your point. You're
Yeah,
absolutely
and
right.
also, like people are like harping on like Jamin Davis, like, oh, they took him too early last year. He was a bust. He had a bad year last year. Well, you get a guy like Mathis to come in and eat up all that space. That's going to allow Jamin Davis to like run a lot more freely around the field and make tackles. So look for Jamin Davis.
Full
Hopefully,
pocket.
if Mathis comes in and does his thing, they're gonna have a pretty solid year this year, I think.
One thing about Mathis is he does play a little bit high. So if he can get that stance down lower, because
Tell him to stop smoking before the games,
it
dude.
does open his chest up a little bit to being susceptible being pushed around the run game from what I saw earlier today. But I'll upload the film breakdown tomorrow. Next question is from our guy Scott Hartley in the UK. Oi!
Boy.
Puckett, is there anyone that we drafted late who can become a superstar? He says Percy Butler can be a day 1 starter and defined role on the team. What do you think?
I don't know if Percy Butler will be a superstar, but what I do think they got him for is that man could cover sideline to sideline. You know, now they can operate with, Cam Curl, and if they get Collins back, have them fluctuate and all that. But I don't think there's no superstar that we got. I mean, but you never know. Anything could possibly happen. I just don't see like the superstar is a strong word. I think that there could be impact players that we got in the later rounds. People that make an impact and make touchdowns or interceptions when we need them.
I know that everyone's concerned about that S word, but I'm not going to say he's going to become a superstar, but who can? And I think that's Sam Howell. I've said this so many freaking times, and nobody wants to listen to me. For you to be able to get a Tom Brady, for you to be able to get a Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, you have to get lucky. You have to be putting yourself in a position where you're building up a good enough team that a rookie quarterback who is capable can come in and operate. And getting Sam Howell in the 5th is absolutely perfect for him as a quarterback and this as a team. It's the perfect match made in heaven. And Puckett, you alluded to it earlier with the quarterback injuries that we've known to have happen here. That is a great prospect to have as your 3rd quarterback on the roster who can develop. He has a ways to go. I'm not going to lie to you. He does. But he can get better, but he does offer other skill set and the connection with Diami Brown to be able to hit the ground running if he is asked to. So if there's anyone day late that I think that has the capability of being the superstar, and that's Sam Darnold. My goodness, that's Sam Howell. The Howitzer, baby.
Definitely not him.
No, what about you, Reed?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, I love the situation that Howell was brought into. There's not going to be expectations, and hey, it's going to be a fun preseason with him. You know what I'm saying? But I am going to go with Cole Turner. I think if you really look at the tight end position in the NFL, you generally see these guys that are drafted from like the 4th to 6th round really kind of come out and break out and have big years, especially if they have the measurables and they're a pass catching tight end, which is what Cole Turner is. He's a former wide receiver. He's got the height. He's got the size. He's athletic. He's still learning the position, so there's still room for him to grow. Will he be a superstar? I don't know, but I really like his chances as opposed to some of these other guys. He's a boom or bust type player that you take in this draft.
I like that a lot. I'm just a Cole Turner guy. What can I say? What about you, Hall?
Yeah, I'm definitely. I don't think there's gonna be any superstar. Like, I mean, obviously, especially not in the later rounds. I was gonna say maybe
right
like
as you say
Dotson.
that. He's like
I was gonna say
second-guessing
maybe
himself.
Dotson could be turned into a superstar because he's gonna be in the field as much, and he's great hands, probably the best hands in the whole draft, and has speed, so he can work all three levels, like Fowler said. So I definitely think Howell can be a solid like quarterback and have like star potential and maybe give you like some superstar plays and superstar moments here and there. But I definitely think that if you look back at Sam Howell's career at North Carolina, when he had all that talent around him, like De'Ami Brown, all those future NFL guys around him, that's when he played his best. So I definitely think that if you put the right weapons around him here in Washington, then down the line he can definitely turn into a star that can give you superstar moments and superstar potential.
Yeah, I like to look at this team like varsity and JV, where the JV squad is essentially, Sam Howell, you got Brian Robinson there, you got De'Ami Brown on one side, Jahan Dotson, and the varsity at the moment is Carson Wentz, Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Logan Thomas, and you got Cole Turner starting for the JV squad. This is a very, very capable unit. I don't care what anyone says. They built it the right freaking way, and I'm really excited about doing this. But before we get out of here, I just want to say Aki G, our guy, wasn't able to say what's up to him at the draft party. He messaged
I talked to him.
I apologize to him because I wasn't able to come up and say what's up because he took his time out to come over and say what's up to us, and and I was so busy I just gave him a salute. But he said he was caught off guard by you being 6'2", Reed.
I mean, everybody, a lot of people say that. They're like, I always feel like you'd be shorter, and I'm like, I know it's because I don't have that energy of an alpha male, but I am. Surprising.
You're absolutely right. And then Puckett, I can't thank you enough for being able to come on here and talk about the draft and your experience in Vegas. I hope the NFL continues to keep the draft in Vegas because I absolutely loved it. I would rather keep
Pretty
it away
sure it's
from
in
New
Kansas
York.
City next year.
Oh, is it? Well, I hope they schedule it more in Vegas.
They got good
I think it's in
barbecue.
Detroit in 2024.
Yeah.
Why? Nobody wants to go to Detroit.
Nobody
Yeah,
wants to go to
no.
Detroit.
Well,
That's
apparently they didn't
I'm
want to
okay
come
with
here
that.
either. 'cause
Apparently
we were up
Jameson
against
Williams
Detroit.
didn't either.
Yeah, you know how
Yeah,
bad
you see
it
his
is.
face. He was.
Yeah,
He looks so blown. He's just like, why am I here?
You know how much of a slap in the face it must be to get chosen to have your city, to have Detroit chosen over you to host a draft. Like that's like the worst place in America. Like,
Yeah, we got chosen over to over to Detroit.
right.
Or no, Detroit got chosen over us.
That's
I
what
mean,
I'm
sorry.
saying. Yeah,
So,
like that's such a slap in the
I
face.
am.
Yeah.
I do not care. Traffic.
You know how
honestly,
fun it would be to
just
go to
fine
a
for me.
draft if it was
To
in
be honest
DC?
with you, it really just comes down to like Dan Snyder. They're not going to
Yeah,
like
that's
reward
literally the entire
Washington
reason.
with all the stuff going on.
Yeah.
They're not going to put girls around
A
him.
new stadium doesn't fix that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Can't fix that
Don't
stink.
bring girls
Yeah.
around.
No.
Jeez, dude,
No.
you were ridiculous. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap us up for this show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'd love to hear your comments. What is your reflection on the NFL of the draft for the Commanders? Give it a grade. What kind of grade would you give them? How do you think they did? And the trade back scenario and all that. We want to hear from you guys in the comments. All right, everybody, I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall.
I'm old dad.
I'm new dad.
Yes, you
The
are.
new dad.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. We will
All
catch you
right,
guys
man.
at another time.
Thank
Puckett, I
you.
can't thank you enough, brother, man. Coming out and being
Thank
able to
you,
take
man. I
some time out
appreciate
for
you
us.
all.
Yes, thank you.
You're the man,
Yeah,
brother.
man.
All right, everybody. We'll see
Thank
you
you.
on Friday. Washington football. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. And if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched theburgundyzone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!